Auctions. Let's talk about why you should think twice before choosing to sell your property at auction. Now for me, there is only one, maybe two reasons why you would want or need to sell a property at auction. The first being time sensitivity. If you need the money quick and you aren't looking to achieve the maximum amount for your property, then auction is definitely the route to take. The second being structural issues and cash only purchases. But even in this scenario, done correctly, the open market would still probably be the better option. Before I break down why it's a bad route to take, let me give you a real world example. I took a property from an agent just a few months back that had been put into the modern method of auction. The property was being marketed at 165,000 and had received a lot of interest but no serious offers that had met the reserve of 180,000. They were all coming in around the 160, 165,000 mark. Now, there was nothing wrong with this property. In fact, it was a fantastic little property in great condition. I put the property on the open market with a great marketing campaign at 190,000, and within 1 week we had offers of 190,000 to 200,000. That's 35,000 more than the highest offer previously. The property went on to complete at 200,000 just some 2 months later. But why was this the case? Well, first things first, whether you use a traditional method or a modern method of auction, then once that gavel goes down, the buyer must put down some money. At a traditional auction, the buyer puts down 10% of the agreed price, which is non-refundable, and contracts are exchanged immediately. The buyer then has 28 days to complete. This means unless you have the cash in the bank, then you can't buy through the traditional auction route, which means you are limited the amount of buyers that you can get. And let's be honest, not many people have that type of money in the bank. These cash buyers are savvy and know this, so they want a deal. They are not going to pay market value when they are buying cash at auction. Don't forget, you also need to pay the auction fees, which are usually 2 to 5% plus VAT from this below market sale you have agreed. The modern method is slightly different. Once that gavel goes down, the buyer then has to put down a non-refundable 5% on average reservation fee on top of the agreed sale price. They then must exchange contracts within 28 days and complete within 56. This longer time frame means it's not only restricted to cash buyers, but buyers with a mortgage are also able to proceed. However, this additional deposit means again you are restricting your buyers. Let's use the real world example I gave you earlier. I had a lot of first time buyers offer on that property with deposits of between 5 to 10%. That means they had 10,000 to 20,000 in the bank, which is what they need for their mortgage. If they must put down an additional 5% on top of that, then they are eating into their deposit, and they either have no deposit left at all if starting out with a 5% deposit, so can't get a mortgage now, or they now only have a 5% deposit from 10%, which means their affordability is reduced and once again can no longer afford the property. Now let's use a bigger figure for example, just to show you the extent of the problem. A property at £300,000 on the open market would need a £30,000 deposit and an additional £15,000 for the reservation fee at auction. This means that property would cost them £315,000 or £15,000 over market value. Therefore, a buyer needs to factor in this additional cost, so we'll have to offer well below market value to make the numbers work. If I only have £30,000 in the bank, I need a 10% deposit for my mortgage and I need to put down a 5% reservation fee, which means I need to buy that £300,000 property at £200,000, so I have a £20,000 deposit for my mortgage and £10,000 for the reservation fee. See how you as a seller are losing out? On top of this, completion times can also be an issue. To complete in 28 to 56 days, then realistically a buyer can't be in a chain. They need to be chain free. So anyone selling a property is pretty much out of the picture unless their chain is well advanced. You can see why auction is not the best route to take if you want to maximize what you get for your property. Agents know this, so why do they recommend auctions? They tell you it's because you as a seller pay no fees, it's covered by the buyer, and that you get a price, which we have already debunked as not the case, and that it's more transparent with buyers being able to see what others are bidding and that you complete quicker, when the reality is quite simple. The agent gets a higher fee. On average, an agent will get between 2 to 4% plus VAT from auction, whereas they might only get 1% plus VAT on the open market. Going back once again to my real world example, if that agent would have sold the property on the open market at £200,000, at 1% they would have received £2,000 plus VAT. If that property would have sold at £160,000 at auction, they would have got a minimum of £3,200, 2%, or £6,400 plus VAT at 4%. As you can see, auction is not the best route to take unless you need to sell and you need to sell quickly and are happy to take a lower price. Going to the open market allows you to have more control, a wider audience, and the flexibility to choose the right buyer for your property. I hope this video will help you make an informed decision to whether auction is right for you. If you do have questions or would like to discuss anything further, then please do not hesitate to contact me. For more property tips and information, don't forget to give me a follow.